Welcome everyone to the Introduce a Girl to Engineering interactive webcast. Thank you for joining and thank you for tuning in from all of the channels out on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and however you tuned in. Today I would like to introduce to you the moderator that we have for the session. Our moderator, Melissa Rowland. She graduated from Lehigh University in 1987 with a bachelor's in civil engineering. She is a mentor and a parent, a civil design and construction engineer. She's been involved in the software industry for several years as well. She's a licensed engineer in the state of Pennsylvania. Melissa, over to you.
Thank you, Martin. Welcome, everybody. I am so excited to see how many people are attending today's session. This is really great to see such a good turnout from all of North America, actually. Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day is now in its 11th year, and it was actually started by the National Engineers Week Foundation to raise awareness so that girls and young women feel empowered to pursue challenging, lucrative, creative, and potentially world-changing careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. And as Martin mentioned, I am a civil engineer by degree, and I have to say that engineering has been a profession that has really changed me for the better. I am honored to be part of the engineering profession, and I'm really honored today to be working with a really terrific panel of women who are going to answer some predefined questions and also field some questions from you in the audience. I'm going to introduce the panel to you right now. First of all, we have Aparna Fadnis. She is a civil engineer, and she works for Bentley Systems as a senior software analyst. She holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering and has worked toward her master's degree in computer science. In her present role at Bentley, she helps Bentley software testing engineers to ensure engineering accuracy of the software, as well as ensuring the software's design is accurate and conforms to code. She is a licensed professional engineer in Connecticut, and she is involved in many mentoring and community activities. And she is also an artist. Karen Armfield is also a professional engineer, and she has been in the geotechnical engineering and design services for railroads, highways, ports, bridges, airports, and power facilities. She's currently the Deputy Geotechnical Department Manager for AECOM's New York City-based Geotechnical Department, where her team designs infrastructure projects throughout the northeastern U.S. and internationally. She is actively involved in several engineering societies and participates in several mentoring programs, including Future City. Angela Matthews is a civil engineer working for Sens & Bury Engineering. She is a Texas licensed civil engineer in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. She serves the North Texas agencies and municipalities in water, wastewater, paving, and drainage system design, including hydraulic analysis, master planning, capital improvement plans, impact fees, reporting, designing water, sewer, and drainage facilities, pre-treatment wastewater plants, providing bidding and construction administration of projects, and ensures quality assurance and quality control measures are taken for each project. She's a true civil engineer. She is involved in many professional associations and mentors through mass counts. She's also a distance runner. I don't envy that. Elizabeth Netting, also known as Liz, graduated from Texas A&M with a BS in civil engineering and started work for a consulting engineering company in Fort Worth. Early experience quickly demonstrated the need for sound project management, so she returned to Texas A&M after a year to get her MBA. She then continued work for consulting firms in Dallas, building expertise in transportation planning, design, and computer applications for civil engineering. After 20 years working as a consultant in private industry, Liz transitioned to the public sector as Assistant Director of Engineering for the City of Frisco, Texas. Liz is also very involved with the Girl Scouts. And finally on our panel is Nicole Torres. She is a student at the University of Texas, and she'll be graduating in December 2012 with a BS in chemical engineering. So we're really grateful to Nicole that she's actually representing a different field of engineering today other than civil engineering. She has worked 2 summer internships for Procter & Gamble in their R&D Products Research Department. She acts as a peer assistance leader and coordinator for the Women in Engineering at University of Texas and is involved in many other campus and community groups. So thank you very much for agreeing to be on the panel, ladies. So we're going to start off with our first question. I'm going to pose the question to Aparna. Aparna, why did you choose to enter the engineering profession? Basically, what was the catalyst for that?
Melissa, really, I chose to enter the engineering profession because I wanted to follow in my father's footsteps. He was a civil engineer too. And, you know, I remember as a child, he would occasionally take us to the construction sites, and we would get to watch concrete being poured. You know, we would go to these groundbreaking ceremonies where there would be barren land, and a month or two down the road, there would be this huge tall building. It fascinated me. As a child, it felt almost like magic. So I did grow up to become an engineer just like my father. And in that sense, I should say that my father was my role model, the catalyst. So Angela, what was, you know, what or who was the catalyst in your life? Would you share with us why you chose to enter the engineering profession?
Definitely, Aparna. Actually, I came about getting into engineering by accident. I just really had a desire to build and design, and I really loved architecture and bridges. And I didn't have any role models in either field, architecture or engineering, so I really had supportive parents, especially my dad. He didn't know anything about architecture or engineering, but he took me to visit a whole bunch of colleges that had strong programs in both architecture and engineering. So I did study architecture for 2 years, but then I decided I really enjoyed what the engineers did, where they designed and made sure that the architect's concept and their ideas came about. And that's how I really got into it. So I switched majors midstream in college, and I became a civil engineer. And I guess, Liz, if you could share your why you entered into engineering and tell us a little bit about your catalyst.
Sure. I grew up in a small town rural environment and started thinking I wanted to go into computer programming, but a few weeks of trying to code with punch cards and Fortran just made me decide, no, not a fit. I had a dorm suite mate who was a female civil engineer, and you know, after only a few weeks of being around her, she got me interested enough to look at civil engineering as a possible major. What I learned about it really fascinated me, because here was a career that did things that I'd actually played with growing up, like running water down the rows in the vegetable garden, and you know, about hydraulic engineering, and building roads and tunnels and buildings in a sand pile. Things that had really fascinated me growing up in the real world, and I decided that was a fit. So I decided I was going to study civil engineering. It just seemed like it was way better than punching cards. So I guess that was what got me going.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. And Nicole, how did you choose the specific field that you're studying, which is chemical engineering?
Yes, Melissa. Well, actually, this was a choice that, as I'm still in school, I continue to make every day in staying with chemical engineering. And I really came to understand and appreciate it when I saw how the things that I could learn in school and the problem-solving skills that I've used my whole life and really enjoyed could be applied to the real world and help people with whatever problems they're facing, whether it's some type of water treatment facility where we can give clean drinking water, or something as simple as, you know, basic living conditions. And then I also really enjoyed the fact that chemical engineering just had so many options. So living in Austin and the state of Texas, there's a lot of oil and gas companies, but I also learned that there's many more applications, especially through my internships these past few years. I was actually working in beauty products, which was a fun combination of the feminine side of my life and the engineering side that kind of blended well together. Karen, what was it that helped you decide what field you were going to study?
Sorry, I had a little trouble getting that going. Well, right now I work as a geotechnical engineer, which means that I help investigate the soil and the rock at a project site. And this information we use to design the proper foundation for a structure. And I liked this area of engineering when I was in school because I felt like it was more challenging and creative than some of the other branches of civil engineering. Since the properties of the soil and the rock can vary greatly, and they can have a big impact on the success of the project. So sometimes you need to really develop innovative solutions to make a particular site work. And how about you, Liz? What made you decide your specific field?
I've kind of been general most of my career. When I was in college, I was interested in a lot of different things, but no one subdiscipline within civil engineering interested me enough to make me want to spend all of my time there, other than I did know that I didn't want to be a structural engineer. However, as my career unfolded, I kind of take pride in the fact that whatever I was asked to do, even if I wasn't particularly interested in it long term, I still tried to do the best I could on every assignment. And I look back now, and many of the things I didn't really want to do helped me even more today than I would have ever imagined. So I kind of stayed general all across my career. So, I think that's okay for what I was doing. So let's see who's next.
Well, okay, thanks, Liz. So moving on to the next question, Karen, going back to you again. What do you think is one thing that you learned most about yourself while studying engineering? So, going back to not that your study of engineering ever stops, because it is one of those things that you do within a profession is you're always learning. But, maybe you could think back to when you were actually in college taking the courses. What is the one thing that you learned most about yourself?
Well, initially when I was a student, I really liked physics and I liked science, but I wasn't really crazy about all the math, especially the thought of taking 4 levels of calculus in engineering. But, as school progressed, I really found out that actually I wasn't that bad in math after all, and I ended up really liking, the math and formulas and all the complex things that go into engineering.
And that's very interesting. Angela, what about you? I mean, is there something in particular that you learned about yourself while you were studying engineering?
Yeah, I would say that this is when I learned that I was a visual learner because engineering theory and concepts are sometimes really abstract, but I found that whenever I was able to see what the science was, or I saw the real life examples, I could understand how things worked. I understood what the theory meant. So that's why I loved physics, and I really started to enjoy the engineering classes. It took me a while, but I really enjoyed that part of learning, and that's of engineering. So that's me. Nicole, since I'm civil engineering, but I don't know what did you learn about in chemical engineering? What did you learn about yourself when you studied and everything?
Yeah, so I continue to learn things about myself every day as I still am a student, as I know everyone continues to learn throughout their life. But some of the key things that I learned throughout my career here at the University of Texas at Austin is that I'm definitely more capable of things than I thought I was. So coming in, I didn't really know what to expect or where my strengths or weaknesses were going to be. But throughout my classes and the support system that I've built, I've really learned what my strengths are, have become more of my interpersonal skills, my working in groups and helping to mentor other students. And then using those skills and those relationships, I'm able to succeed better in class. And I know that through the female support systems that we have here at the University of Texas, I've really been able to connect with others and rely on others when I need help in a certain subject or if I'm really struggling. But I think the one thing I learned most is that I'm capable of doing a lot more than I realized when I graduated from high school.
Very good. Wonderful. So moving on to the next question. And this kind of ties back into the first one, but what have you learned since graduating from college? You know, I look at myself, I'm going to give myself as an example. I thought I really got it, you know, like, oh, here I am, I'm done, I have a degree, I'm going to go apply it, I know all there is to know. Subsequently, I've learned that, wow, there's just a lot of options, and having the foundation of being an engineer from a school that really teaches you how to solve problems gives you the ability to travel down many different paths. So what about you, Angela? I mean, how do you think about, what are you learning now as you're progressing in your career?
Well, Melissa, before I answer that question, I see that Miranda's hand is raised. Miranda, if you have a question, could you type it in the chat window? Sorry. Well, Melissa, really quickly, when I thought about that question, I learned that I really basically like designing anything. It didn't have to be buildings. It didn't have to be bridges. And if you heard Melissa's introduction for me, I'm not designing buildings anymore. I'm actually designing water lines and sewer pipelines and other things that relate to civil infrastructure. And it's very different from what got me into engineering. But the thing is, what I really learned about myself was that I like the challenges. I like the daily challenges and knowing that the experience is only going to make me better. One thing I did learn also was that over the years that what I'm doing is very important. I realized that, you know, what we do is very important for us to live comfortably in the United States, to have clean drinking water, to be able to flush our toilet, to drive on the roads we have. These are the things that are very fundamental and basic to our lives. So that's what I've learned. I'm significant in what I do, and so it gives me a confidence, and I realize that, yeah, I mean, what I do is really important. So thanks.
Well, thanks, Angela. You know, so many things that all of you all are saying are very similar to my personal feelings. I always get up on my soapbox whenever I can and say to my friends and neighbors, like, you know what, without engineering, you wouldn't be able to have clean water to drink, you wouldn't have roads to drive on, you probably wouldn't have a telephone or a cell phone. So, you know, these are important positions to hold in society. Liz, what do you think you've learned about yourself as you're progressing in your career?
I would have to say the details really do matter. Things that you don't really realize until you're taking care of them. Little things like where a sidewalk goes, specifically where a handicap ramp goes. The little details really do matter in engineering, and someone has to take care of it. You know, how high should this be? Exactly where should something go? That's what we do. But at the same time, the biggest lesson I've had to learn in life is that experience will help you be confident that yes, you can figure out something when you run into problems, when things don't go as you planned. I would have to say that I didn't learn that lesson really at work. I learned it in Girl Scouts. Imagine taking a troop of 15 8-year-old girls on a camp out. That's when a little bit of flexibility and creativity is, you know, when things start going off your schedule and off your plan, yeah, a little bit of experience will help you kind of bring it back on. And so I was able to bring that confidence and knowledge back to my work and go, yeah, even when things don't go well on a project, we'll figure something out. We'll make it work. It might cost us a little money or take a little time, but we'll figure it out. So I would say that was my biggest life lesson to this point. How about you, Aparna? Did you notice anything that you've learned in your career?
You know, Liz, for me, as I progressed through my career, what I found out about myself is that I love to work on creative projects. When I'm assigned a new project, there is this excitement of, creating something new, of learning something new. You'll notice this sparkle in my eye, that little lilt in my step. Throughout the progress of the project, with all its challenges, I just feel alive. Not only are my problem-solving skills honed during the whole process, but I get to work as a team with other smart engineers, and this can be a very fulfilling experience. And then when the project is completed, there is an immense sense of satisfaction and pride of accomplishment, of having achieved a goal. I guess what it ultimately boils down to, is that I'm a doer, a hands-on person. I like to get my hands dirty, and I also like to achieve, So I'm sure there are girls out there who relate with these type of, feelings. I'm sure I'm not the only one. What do you think, Melissa?
Yeah, I agree with you, Aparna. I mean, as I mentioned before, there's just so many things I learned about myself as I progressed through my career. From, wow, I amazed myself that I can solve a problem, to, being asked to step into leadership roles. I think that, the study of engineering is not easy. I don't want to frighten anybody from studying engineering, but I also don't want to make it sugar-coated. But it's worth it. It's worth it. It'll stretch your mind. It'll stretch your imagination. It'll help you to become more creative. And in certain engineering fields, actually do give you the opportunity to work with society and more closely with members of your community. And if you like people, it's a great career. So Liz, I want to ask you, because this is a big question. It's really come up quite a bit over the last few years. Why do you think there aren't more women in engineering?
I've thought about this a lot. I think, first off, there's a lack of people who are very visible and accessible role models. If you look around, for me, I didn't know anyone who was an engineer growing up, so I had to actually stumble across someone as I was almost starting college before I knew what an engineer was. So I've always taken that as a personal challenge in my life to make sure that my kids and my kids' friends all knew I was an engineer and generally what the engineers do. So I think that would I think as we get more women who are engineers and they're visible like we have them, it will help recruit other younger women and young girls to be interested in engineering. And then just an observation, as an engineer I have to say this isn't a statistically tested or provable, it's more an anecdotal thing that I've observed. But women do tend to, we have some attrition in engineering over time, primarily due to having children and trying to raise a family. They tend to drop out when they start having children sometimes, and sometimes they don't come back to the profession as their kids get a little older. And I think that if there was better support and more encouragement from employers, from our clients if you're in the private side, from family, spouses, and from the community to just stay involved. And as Angela was saying earlier, what we do really does matter. Raising children matters, but staying active as an engineer is really important. And so I think that if the employment environment was a little bit more supportive of women and allowed us the opportunity to do something like what I did when my children were young, I dropped back and worked 30 hours a week, kind of part-time, but not really fully part-time, not really full-time. and I was able to give my family more time. I think if that was more available to more people, we might see less attrition of women. I guess, let's see, Karen, what was your experience?
Well, I know when I was younger that, a lot of the people that were giving me advice as a teenager didn't really assume that girls would like engineering or construction or manufacturing since they don't fit the typical girl profile. But actually, I find with the women I work with that women often make better engineers than some of the men. And, a lot of these topics, manufacturing or construction might not immediately appeal to you. Actually, it's very interesting to go to a construction site. As some of the women mentioned, seeing all these things being built and seeing, the designs that you've come up with come into fruition, So I think a lot of women or girls don't see this as a potential for them, but, it might be something that they should consider, even though it's not sort of typical for women.
Well, thanks, Karen. Aparna, do you have some ideas about why there aren't more women in engineering?
Melissa, mostly I do agree with Liz and Karen, and recently I found out that an Engineers Coalition group conducted a research on why there are very few girls in engineering, and I had a chance to read that report. And the findings pointed out that the majority of girls believe that engineering is difficult, engineering is boring, you have to be exceptionally good at math, you have to love math, and girls are smart. They want more from their careers. Sure, they want to have a lucrative career, but most of all, they want a good work-life balance. And just as Liz mentioned earlier, if there was a better support system, maybe, there will be more girls in the future who will, keep their mind open to this option. But, it's with the myths and misconceptions surrounding the engineering profession, I think it's only natural that girls shy away.
Well, thank you. I do think that it's becoming easier for girls to think about engineering as a profession, and it's actually becoming easier for them to get accepted into the schools, and the schools are making more accommodations for the fact that there are females now in the schools. I know Liz and I are about the same age, and I can just give you my experience of being in college. I was one of two females in my civil engineering class, and I had a professor that actually looked me straight in the face and he said, "We just don't know what to do with girls in these classes." It was just like, really? And I was from a family that was, my father was an engineer, and my mother very much encouraged me to go into engineering because she didn't have that option. She would have been a great engineer. She'd had somebody actually steer her in that direction, but she was a girl, so she was expected to be a teacher or a nurse, and that's what she picked. I think the fact that we can come together and do these webcasts, and we have all these wonderful people on this webcast asking tons and tons of questions, means that we're actually starting to make some changes, and that's fantastic. So that's great to hear and see. Okay, so Nicole, let me ask you a question. What advice would you give to a girl who is still trying to figure out what she wants to be? And I think a lot of the girls are asking some questions, advice-related questions in the chat box. So I don't know if you can give sort of a quick summary on your thoughts.
Yeah, I think there's two really great resources if you're trying to, I know some of the questions are deciphering what types of engineering there are out there and kind of what that really does. So we posted some of the links there. There's an Engineering Go For It website, which does a really great job describing the differences, as well as Engineer Your Life. And that one, both of those are .org pages, but those have really good information to kind of give a broader sense. We're obviously representing two main types of engineering here today, but this gives a little bit more information on other sides. But I would say the number one thing is find something that you're passionate about, and that's what you should really pursue. I really enjoyed my science classes in high school, especially my senior chemistry class, and I owe a lot of my a lot of gratitude to my chemistry teacher for helping me see what potential I had there. But also just knowing that whatever your passion is, you should go for it, and don't let anyone else tell you that you can't do it, whether it's male or female, your parents. If there's something that you really want to achieve, I think that's the #1 thing in deciding what you should do for your life. Let's see, who else? Maybe Angela, do you have some advice on what it is that you would tell girls who are still trying to figure out what they want to be?
Oh, definitely. I pretty much would tell the girls to take all the classes you can in college within reason. I guess money can be a limitation. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of articles. I took a range of classes, everything from classic Greek psychology and all the way to government relations, and that's how I discovered who I was and what I would be interested in. I like to think that I'm still figuring things out because I want to continue to still be challenged. And but one thing that I definitely want the girls on this webcast to really, if you can, seek out a mentor, and this can be a parent, a teacher, a coach, any adult woman or even adult male that you trust, you admire, and you respect that person. And that person doesn't have to be an engineer or any. It doesn't matter what the profession is. It's important more to have someone that can be a support system for you, someone who can give you advice and be your sounding board. I asked Liz Netting here, who's also a panelist, to be on this panel because she's my mentor. She's a woman engineer that I really respect and admire, and I liked her attitude. I liked how she presented herself, and I liked how she's balancing her work and her work and her personal life, and how she's still a great mother. I see that when she tells me about her Girl Scouts and her math counts contribution. So yeah, find a mentor, and it doesn't matter what you decide to do. Just have someone that you can talk to. And I guess Aparna, if you have something to add.
Angela, you guys pretty much covered it all. I really like the way Nicole, said that don't let anyone tell you, what you feel like doing. You want to follow your passion, and what you said about seeking out a mentor is another great idea. I mean, if it was a girl, like a middle school age girl, which is funny because I do have my daughter is about that age, and I'm still not sure what she wants to be, and for now I just ask her to keep her mind doors open to this option, explore her interests. I would try to debunk the myth about having to love math, and as long as she's able to do math, that option is still hers to consider. For high school level students, I would encourage them, if they have any technology courses at their high school, to maybe try something like that. They don't really have to wait until college, but that's one thing. They could shadow an engineer. These are things I would probably advise a girl. The other thing I would say is to try to find out what you are and what motivates you. Like, if you feel that you are a creative person, and ultimately, what is it that we want from a career? We want to be successful. We want to be able to make a decent living. So if you know that you're a creative person, then there is no doubt that you'll be successful as an engineer, because engineering is a lot to do with problem solving. And The other type of person, who would do really well in the engineering profession is a person who's driven to, has this ambition to want to make a difference and make this world a better place to be. Then, I think they would do really well in engineering.
Well, thank you, Aparna. That was excellent. All your responses have been excellent. I know we have a lot of questions in the chat box. I do have one more question I want to ask the panel, and then we'll see if we can get through try to answer some of the major questions that have been posed. So, Angela, I wanted to ask you, how do you now give back to your profession and or your community as a result of being an engineer?
Well, Melissa, I mentioned that I did math counts, and what I do is I got really involved with the professional organizations that are associated with my career, American Society of Civil Engineers and the Texas Society of Professional Engineers, and they all have community projects and organizations that they support, and math counts, future cities, and career days. I mean, we do all kinds of things, and so I'm constantly looking for opportunities to reach out to the people I care about the most, and encouraging them to come up into engineering, and that is, young girls. And I also like to encourage young women engineers, because I know that it's hard sometimes to stick with engineering, and so I want to encourage them to stay in it, and because there's so many more of us, and I want to help them out. So math counts, definitely. I just did that in a couple weeks ago. I coordinated this local competition in North Texas, about 29 schools, 240 students, and it's a lot of fun. It gets kids excited about math, but I do have to admit I was a little disappointed that there was only less than 30% girls that actually participated. So I wanted the girls to see that there are female engineers. There was so many female volunteers that were engineers. So that so part of what I do is to try to get out there, show that there is a different face other than another guy that it looks like an engineer that with a hard hat. And so I wanted them to see that we're average women also, but we're also pretty smart, and we chose to be an engineer. So that's how I give back. And I mean, there's other things I do, but through my profession, that's what I do. Thanks. Liz, you're segue into you, especially because you're one of the people that got me involved in a lot of these things. So if you can share with us what you do to give back to the community.
I felt like being active in professional societies has been really important to me since college. I got involved in college primarily actually because there were guys in the professional societies, and I was kind of interested in guys too. But then the professional societies became important for just their own reasons, and I really enjoyed it. I found it gave me a lot of contacts and networking, so being active there was my way of giving back. And sometimes you can be more active or maybe a little less active. I had to make a decision when I started having children. Do I keep up my professional society activities? What has to give? And I think I actually stepped back my work responsibilities a little bit so I could still give to my kids, to my family. And I still wanted to stay in my career, so I chose to work part of the time. And I still stayed active in the professional society. But with my kids, I was able to be involved in other community activities. I picked up Girl Scouts, and it taught me lessons that helped me at work as well. So I think that giving back comes in a lot of different ways. It can be being active with your kids, where they can participate with you. I mean, my children went to every math counts competition with me from they were born until they were actually old enough to participate. Unfortunately, they didn't, but they participated right alongside myself and my husband in many of our professional activities. So, you know, I hope that'll help them when it comes their turn to give back. And, you know, now that my kids are a little older, I'm becoming a little bit more involved in professional activities again. And for us, that was just what we like to do. And it gave, my husband and I both had been very active, and it gave us things to do together. And then I did some things very separate from him. And so I'd say that's how we give back. Now what I've learned in my current job is actually working for the city I live in is its own way of giving back, because day in and day out I can be going to the grocery store, I can be taking my kids to an activity, I'm driving somewhere around town, and I see things that need attention from the city or need someone else to work on or something. I can check on progress of projects just in my day in, day out life, and being able to tell neighbors what is going on, you know, how do things work for the city, how do they get in touch with the right person to make a difference with something that concerns them. So there's many different ways that I find to just be accessible as an engineer, as a city employee, and active in professional societies. Karen, maybe you can give us some more insight on how you give back.
Sure. I'm involved in a lot of different student outreach activities. Locally, I run the Future City competition here in New York, which is a mentoring program for middle school students that are interested in engineering. Also in my office, I run the intern program, so college students can get some practical experience in the field. I'm also a adjunct professor at CUNY in Brooklyn, where I teach soil mechanics in the civil engineering department. And on a national level, I'm also the chair of the ASCE Committee on Career Development. So I work with a group of people on my committee to help develop mentoring programs and career advancement materials for young engineers. So I really like being involved with young engineers and students and helping them move along on their career and decide what what's the best career for them and how they're going to move on with their careers. So I find that really rewarding.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate all the responses and your participation. I see that we are getting a lot of questions in the chat box, and it looks like for the most part either some of the panelists or others in the meeting are actually responding back and answering the questions. If there's somebody that has a question they'd like to pose, if you could raise your hand and maybe we can call on you and have you ask it out loud, or raise your hand and we'll have you type it in the chat box. Those chat messages are kind of flying through, and I don't want to miss anything if it hasn't been answered. Well, maybe some of the panelists might want to ask a question of the audience. Do you guys have any questions you want to ask the audience? Yes, Russian Rocket, do you have a question? When do you need to start taking tests? I'm not really sure. AP exams? I don't know. Can anybody on the panel answer that question?
I can maybe help out a little bit, Melissa, but that's really the AP exams are gonna be based on when your school offers them, and then again, when you are applying to school. You can take an AP exam in high school, but the universities have certain admission deadlines, and those can vary anywhere from early in the fall to late in the spring, and so having those test scores sent after you take the test is when you're going to know about the credit for that, if that kind of helps. But it's definitely both your high school dependent, and then, or if you're homeschooled, kind of the system that you have set up there, or where you plan on attending college.
I'd like to add a little bit to that. Since I have a daughter that I just helped get admitted to college, I'd also kind of clarify. You don't have to start your engineering degree with AP exams. If you go all the way through high school and you don't have the opportunity, or you didn't have the inclination in high school, that doesn't rule you out of starting your engineering work. It might take you a little bit longer to get through college, but I wouldn't let that discourage you from starting into engineering if you didn't have the opportunity or time. I had to do some makeup work with doing some pre-calculus classes when I started because I came from a small school that did not have those opportunities, but obviously that didn't keep me from becoming an engineer. So I think that just, it doesn't necessarily stop you from becoming an engineer.
That's a great point, Liz, because I think one of the things we want to do is encourage people to go into engineering. You don't need to be gifted. You don't need to be the valedictorian of your class. You just need to have an interest, and you need to have a desire to want to pursue it. And I think, based on my experience too, because I also have a son who just went to college, many colleges have staff that really want to see you as a student succeed, and especially the engineering organizations within the schools. They really want to graduate engineers, and they will do what they can to help you succeed. So don't feel like you can't do it just because you haven't achieved, that superstar status in high school. Somebody else just raised their hand. Alexandria, did you have a question? Do you think that public colleges or private colleges are better for an engineering degree? From my personal point of view, I don't think that one is better over the other. I think you need to look at the school that fits you and your personality, talk to the teachers there, try to get a feel for how well their placement is for graduates. I think that's probably a better indicator of how good the school is versus private or public. I know here in Pennsylvania, Penn State has an excellent engineering program, so that's a public school.
Sorry, Melissa, this is Nicole. I would just also say that one of the things that I have found to be a really great resource that I didn't necessarily know to look for, but I was glad my university had, was a really strong career center. So that way it helps with internships, co-ops, and job placement. So that's something that no matter what type of school it is, I would just look for that because, I mean, yes, you want to learn engineering, but you probably want to do something after you graduate. And I think that that's a really key benefit to look at for whatever universities you're evaluating.
Okay, someone else raised their hand. Lorraine, did you have a question? Maybe you typed it in already and I just didn't see it. And also Shannon, you had a question. Lorraine says, my students want to know how long is the mechanical engineering program. Most college engineering programs are 4 years. Some are 5, depending on if they have a co-op program included with it. There's also a variety of programs that are starting to spring up at different colleges and universities where they might combine engineering with a business degree or engineering with an art degree, and those are typically 5-year programs as well. Sometimes you get 1 degree and a minor with that. Sometimes you get 2 separate degrees. So every school is a little bit different. Every school is priced a little bit differently. You really need to shop around and see what makes most sense for you. Do women tend to get advanced degrees in engineering, whether they be a master's or PhD? Does anybody have any statistics that might be able to answer that?
I can't answer that, but I can tell you in civil engineering, I can't give you a stat, but I noticed that if you want to go into like wastewater or water treatment, you would want to have a graduate degree, because some of the stuff is has more science involved, and if you're doing something like municipal engineering, it is not required, but definitely women do pursue graduate degrees. But Karen, I see that you were about to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's going to depend what area you specialize in. I mean, if you specialize in something, highly technical, like, for example, most of the people in my field in geotechnical engineering, most of them will have a master's degree. Whether they're women or men, either way, they would probably have a master's degree. Some would even have a PhD. But, I think it's going to depend what area you specialize in more so.
Oh, sorry, Nicole. I was going to jump in and add on to Karen's comment. it really does vary and depend on what you want to do. I've known brilliant people with advanced degrees, and I've known people who are amazingly good engineers with nothing but a bachelor's who just focus on solving more general day in, day out engineering problems. And I think it really just depends on where your career takes you. But women can get the advanced degrees as well. It just depends on what individual circumstances are. Nicole, you had something you were going to say?
Oh yes, I was just going to say that one of the things that is starting to happen more so is as women have become more prevalent in engineering and continue to pursue degrees in higher levels than the bachelor's level, there's also going to be an increase in female faculty, which is one of the things that I've really appreciated throughout my career here. Is there is a lower number of female faculty than male faculty, and so as this trend changes, I think that's something that's going to be a really awesome and empowering aspect of females in the engineering industry, but from an academic standpoint.
Melissa, I see a question that's on the board by Introduce a Girl to Engineering Interactive Webcast 1. If you could tell your high school self one thing that you know now that would have made your life easier, what would it be? I don't
go ahead and answer that.
Okay, well, I guess I would love to tell myself that you're not going to know the minute that you're in college. You're not going to know probably when you graduate from college what you're going to do, but you're going to figure it out. You're going to be okay. So that's probably one thing I would tell myself, is that, I mean, you don't have to have this grand vision of what you're going to be, and if you don't meet that dream or that vision, it's not that big of a deal. You'll still be okay. So that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah, well, I would tell myself, hey, don't be afraid of the teachers in college. They're there to help you. It's okay if you ask them questions, and actually it's okay if you get to know them a little bit, because it will probably enrich your life more in school, which will help you get a better start once you get out. So, don't be afraid to talk in college. Anybody else have any advice on that line?
Given that I was only in high school, I guess 4 years ago now, the thing that I would tell myself is it's going to be different, but that you should definitely take the good with the bad and know that, okay, this week might be a little bit more of a struggle than I anticipated, but that'll be okay. And I think the other thing is going to be a lot of students come into college and they might have done well in high school, and then once they get here the first time they don't do well on something, not knowing how to ask for help sometimes can be a really big struggle. So I would say be willing to go and talk to professors or to teaching assistants or to a tutoring center, because using those resources to the maximum potential is really going to help you succeed and help you enjoy college more as well.
Also, I might add, from a professor's point of view, since I'm a professor now, I mean, the professor's there to help you finish and help you be successful in the class. So, anytime you have a question, don't be afraid to go see the professor in their office and ask questions, or ask questions in class. I mean, most professors I know would be happy to, help you get through any problems you're having with the class.
We are coming up on the end of our hour session, and it's been fantastic. But I just want to make sure if anybody has any pressing question that we didn't get to, if you want to raise your hand and we can do one last look. Maybe we could, Aparna, maybe you can
one of
just
the
say
things
some
I wanted
closing
to
remarks.
say, when we were talking about, what you would say to your own high school self, I would say that don't be intimidated by the strength that men or boys will tend to display. And, as a girl in engineering, you're going to feel that, oh, I don't have that physical strength, and how am I going to do this job? And I just wanted to put that out there, that there are different types of strengths, and mental strength can sometimes be of greater significance than just physical strength.
Perfect. Any other final words, Aparna, before we say goodbye?
No, that's it from me.
Okay.
Liz,
anything?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Liz, any final words?
I would just say I look forward to having at least a number of the people who tune in for the webcast apply and become engineers in whatever discipline. It's really encouraging to see people actually sign up and start studying civil engineering of any sort. It's been the best part of watching some of my Girl Scout troops actually sign up. One of them is studying mechanical engineering, one of them is studying biomechanical engineering. And my daughter did not decide to become an engineer, but that's okay, I still love her. She's going to do something else wonderful.
That's excellent. You're a wonderful mentor. Angela, any final words?
No, I just really enjoyed everything, and I just hope that all the girls who are on this call, that they continue to ask questions and talk to your mentors, talk to your teachers, talk to your parents, ask questions about engineering, and pick up a Lego set. That's what got me really into all this. I really like Legos. I don't know about you ladies, but Barbies and Legos, I did both. So I loved my toys. So that's all I've got to add.
Thank you, Angela. How about you, Karen? Any final thoughts?
I just want to say that, so far, over the last 13 years, civil engineering has been a great career for me, and, it's really nice satisfaction when you get to design something and see your design come to life, and, for example, go to the airport and, be able to say to your friends and family, like, oh, I designed this terminal, or I designed this runway, or things like that. It's really satisfying careers. So I think the girls out there would enjoy it, and I encourage them to go ahead and pursue it.
Thanks, Karen. And finally, Nicole, any final words for you?
I would just like to say that as a younger female in the engineering industry, as I've started to see, what the dynamics are like in other generations of engineers, it's really empowering for me to know that my generation and the generations after are going to continue to pursue engineering. So I'd really encourage everyone that if this is something you're interested in, really go for it and don't let anyone stop you, and that unlike Angela, I wasn't a Lego person, but I used to make my own different shampoo combinations. So maybe they're either a home chemistry kit, or I'm a beauty junkie, so combining new fragrances and stuff like that was kind of my thing. So you never know what engineers kind of run the world, despite what everyone else might think. So I think that if there's something that you're interested in, there's a good chance that you could find a way to apply engineering towards it, and that's something that I really love to do. So I hope that all of you can find your love within an engineering degree as well. I'd also like to thank everyone for allowing me to participate in this panel. This is something that I definitely enjoyed and was a nice way to communicate the information and really empower other women as well. So this is a great panelist, and I hope everyone enjoyed kind of hearing what we had to say, and hopefully you got a lot of your questions answered.
Nicole, good luck with school. Definitely. Just wanted to. I know you're not there yet. You're not on the other side of the fence yet, but I'm excited for you. I really am. So continue to grow and ask yourself all those hard questions. I know that you're already in the engineering field, but hey, know that we're here for you if you have any struggles too. I mean, we all go through it. So keep in touch, please.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's really great to have a support system, both to support others and to be supported. So I think this is a great group of women, and I think it's really empowering.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, I appreciate so much all of you guys participating in today's panel. It was great. It sounds to me like we need to do these again. There's so many wonderful women, and so you guys have so many, you're very inspiring to me, and hopefully you've been inspiring to everyone on this webinar. So with that, we're going to close. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I did put into the chat box the fact that we have recorded this session, and we will be posting it on the Bentley B-Mentors site, which is www.bentley.com/bmentors, and you will be able to read the recording or review the recording if you want to, and pass it on to others who were not able to attend. Martin, are you still there? Did you want to take care of any final administrative things on our end?
I just wanted to thank all the panelists for joining, and Melissa, thank you for keeping up with all the high-paced questions. This was an outstanding webcast. So thank you everyone for joining, and as Melissa said, it was recorded, so hopefully you can share it to your audience wherever you meet them.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Melissa.